1. It just so happened that my senior year, our university was up for its 10-year re-accreditation. This means the university gets a week-long visit from the Regional Accreditation Board. There are 6 such boards in the US. Losing accreditation basically means the US government no longer sees us as a real university, so this board has the power to ruin us. On a completely unrelated tangent, the name of this board is completely ridiculous. Someone clearly didn't try pronouncing the acronym. This isn't the real name, but I assure you it's equally bad. Imagine having to discuss DIKBOLS with your boss while keeping a straight face. So, naive little me assumes we'll simply have to be on our best behavior, maybe work some extra shifts just in case, and hold off on any upgrades or changes until they leave. To my surprise, I showed up the Monday before their visit to find a stack of 12 brand new laptops at the help desk. My boss gave me a laundry list of things to do for each one. Being a small public institution, this was not normal. You see, we had labs with machines over a decade old. That was when I realized how their visit would really go. This board knows they have the power to ruin us, and we must treat them like royalty. So I spent most of the week leading up to their visit working my way through the laundry list on each laptop. Some of it was expected, like update Windows, install some software, pre-download some files, etc. I was a little surprised that they also wanted me to visit every website and open every PDF the board needed on each laptop just to be 100% sure there were no issues. But fair enough. The last step was the one I really remember, though. I was to carefully wipe my fingerprints off before placing each laptop back into its bag. Despite the fact that we had to prepare each one, they were to appear untouched by human hands. Meanwhile, I texted one of my student tech co-workers, Rick, to ask what job they gave him. So, Rick, what do they have you doing? I'm at a nearby hotel helping set up a temporary office. Why a nearby hotel? Wouldn't it be better to do it somewhere on campus? Oh, they're setting up something on campus too, but the nearby hotel is where they're staying and it has a nicer conference room. So that is where their main workspace is going. You should see the snack bar they're setting up. Take a picture for me. It was a crazy week leading up to the visit, but it paid off. The visit itself was uneventful. Well, almost. I was helping one of the full-time staff, Mike, clean up that same hotel conference room. That was where they'd left the laptops, so we were taking inventory when we realized we had one fewer bag than laptops. We couldn't find it anywhere, so Mike called the boss. Hey, I was wondering if anyone's found one of the laptop bags on campus. We have all of the laptops, but we're down a bag. No, did you ask the hotel if housekeeping found it in one of the rooms? Yes, they already cleaned them and didn't find it. They did say they'd let us know if it turns up, though. That's alright, it probably is on campus somewhere. Luckily, I don't think the board is at the airport yet, so I'll call their assistant to see if she can ask around. Satisfied with that answer, Mike and I took a short break and munched on the board's leftover snacks. Hey, you see this one? I don't even know how to pronounce it. Apparently someone on the board requested this special. I heard the catering department had to send someone an hour and a half away just to find it, and it looks like they only drank 1 or 2 cans. This was several years ago, before LaCroix was well known nationally. Well, it must be pretty good then. Let's give it a try. We learned LaCroix was not for us, but we did bring a couple back with us to show the rest of the help desk, where we learned what happened to the last bag. We found the laptop bag. One of them had it in their suitcase and said they must have packed it by mistake. I'm sorry to ask this, but Mike, do you mind taking the van to the airport to get it? Note that this was a 3-hour drive round trip. Yeah, I can do that, but wait. They accidentally packed it in their suitcase? How does that even happen? Believe me, I was wondering the same thing, but I wasn't going to ask questions, and of course, we're the ones who have to get it. Thank you for making the drive, though. And so ended 2 of the weirdest weeks of my time there. We passed our accreditation with flying colors. In fact, their assistant later told us it was the smoothest visit they'd had all year. The laptops became the crown jewels of our loaner pool. And next Monday I was back to telling parents that no, I cannot reset your son, daughter's password for you, even if you know the last 4 digits of their social security number. 2. I'm a web developer who specializes with a particular CMS, and would frequently get client requests to provide them with Excel reports of the data that's in their CMS for various things. Several years ago, after writing a few quick and easy but unreusable export admin tools, I decided to make a reusable tool that could handle any and all of these export requests so that I would never have to write another custom export tool again. So I did. It took me several months, and I've been refining and adding to it for the past 5 years. Thanks to my tool, I actually was awarded with the CMS MVP Technology Award, and have been an MVP for the past 4 years now. I made this tool as simple and user-friendly as possible so that any CMS user should be able to understand how to use it and be able to export data that they have read access to. Absolutely no technical skills required beyond what any CMS user already has. The tool itself has an explanation on every single field, but I also wrote out the complete documentation on my personal blog for how to use it, which is linked to from the GitHub repo. So then all my clients started using it and never asked me for data reports again. Just kidding. This is how it usually goes. We need to know all the pages that have been created in the CMS under this folder. Can you provide us with this? Note, this is the most basic possible export. Hi, client. You can use the export tool that I've told you about 12 times over the past 3 years to pull that information. Here's a link to the documentation. Though you probably would realize you don't even need it if you just tried opening the export tool and looking at it. Thanks. Can we schedule a meeting so that you can explain to us how to use the tool? In the meantime, can you please generate the report for us? I then say, hi, project manager. You can use the export tool to generate that report they're asking for. Sure, I have never used it before though. Can you show me how it works? Then eventually, several months or years later, the project manager finally tries the tool. Not the client though, they will never ever use it because it's easier for them to just ask us for all the data they need and wait up to 5 days to get it rather than spend 2 minutes getting it themselves. The project manager messages me on Slack. Oh wow, this tool is really useful. However, this only fills me with anger rather than joy because I know it's useful. That's why I've been telling you to use it for the past 5 years. 3. Background. I work for an IT contracting company, and the contract I'm on is a service desk tech at a hospital. My boss works for the same company I do, and he reports to the hospital's CIO. After some schedule changes, somebody quit, more schedule changes, and new people were hired and trained. I got moved into Monday to Friday second shift. After having been on Monday to Friday second shift, then third shift on weekends. This is about the guy who took the shitty hybrid schedule I just left. Well, mostly about the event that caused him to be fired. Prior to this final event, he rarely responded to any communication directed at him regardless of importance. There was one night we were working where I had to go off-site to image some computers, and hadn't heard a word from him all that shift. He wasn't answering calls, texts, messages, and WebEx, nothing. It took multiple calls from bosses to get him to acknowledge anything. When I did see him in person, he barely spoke a word to me unless he was on call and needed help, which he needed. Frequently. Myself and other co-workers had to coach him through some of the simplest things we do multiple times. He also regularly neglected the very few tasks he had on those night shifts. And I've gotten too many calls from users who were speaking with him and said that the call dropped suspiciously while he was working with them. Toward the end, he seemed to be getting better, but man, was he not at all. We all knew he was going to be fired at some point, but we were just waiting for the when and why. This is the when and why that I've been told from my boss and a coworker. I heard this from my boss after I got up Monday morning, and this happened around midnight on Sunday night, during my now former coworker's night shift. Found out later from another coworker that it was about an hour into his shift, as she was called in to take over at around 1 a.m. According to my boss, this idiot was sleeping on a couch, wrapped up in a blanket with his shoes off and his laptop on his stomach. He didn't even go somewhere to try and hide, just in plain sight in a doctor's lounge where anyone could have found him. And he was found by a security guard and the on-duty nurse supervisor. When they confronted him, he got argumentative to the point where they had to call the police to escort him out of the building. Security took his badge, and then he had the testicular fortitude to sneak back in. When he was found again, they had to have the police escort him out a second time. And he was drunk. He might have been drunk the whole time, but I'm putting this together from multiple sources, so who knows. That series of events over the course of an hour or so was the final straw, after many of his fuck-ups. It wasn't my boss who fired him either, it was the hospital CIO, at around 1 a.m. on a Monday morning. Funny thing is that apparently when he was interviewed for the position, he did very well. In practice, though, he was barely good enough to just answer phone calls. Found out after his first few fuck-ups that he was going through some really rough life stuff, causing me to think, why the hell would you do this when you need the job? Whatever the reason, good riddance, and thanks for the overtime. 4. I work as an IT manager for an international corporation, and it never fails that we have a plethora of user issues with our staff and mobile workforce. Our organization has employees who are famous for not opening tickets and just calling out of the blue with the most basic of issues. Today is no exception. My morning started as usual, with calls coming in before I or my team even arrive at work. We set to work answering calls and prioritizing the calls, ensuring any production-stopping issues or customer-facing issues are taken care of first. Out of the blue, and before my first cup of coffee, Help Desk Frequent Flyer calls my direct line with an issue where her PDF reader will not open. I look into the ticket system as I do not remember seeing a ticket from her, and sure enough there isn't one. Since I am already working on an issue that affects multiple facilities, I ask her to put in an IT ticket, and I would address it as soon as I can. Well, as you can imagine, the frequent flyer gets irritated and demands I address her issue as it is urgent. Trying to be helpful, I suggest that she give the system a restart and try again, ensuring it is not one of those odd occurrences that happen with certain operating systems. This is the point the frequent flyer insists that she has already done so and it is still happening. She then again demands that I drop what I'm doing and help her. I politely repeat that I'm working on an issue that affects multiple facilities, and she would have to wait her turn. This goes over like a lead balloon, and she disconnects the call after muttering sarcastically about the need of entering a ticket. Please understand that opening a ticket is as simple as sending an email to the IT team's group inbox with a simple one-line statement of the issue. Our ticket system creates and fills in all other fields that are required automatically from the person's email address. This is when I get a call from the frequent flyer's manager demanding to know why I refuse to work on her ticket. Now I am starting to get irritated, since I had just asked her to do what requires minimal effort to get in the queue for assistance. Instead, she wants to get her manager involved as if that would help her jump the line. Nope. I explained to frequent flyer's manager I am working on an issue that affects multiple facilities, and the frequent flyer would have to wait her turn. The manager understands and says that he will discuss the need for priorities with her. 10 minutes later, I notice a help request from her shows up in the ticket system. I quickly route the ticket to myself, ensuring that none of my subordinates have to deal with her, or her self-important attitude. I finish correcting the multiple facility issue and decide to take care of her ticket. I open our remote connection software to look at frequent flyer's workstation event logs to see if there is any indication of what is causing her PDF software issue. Lo and behold, an update was applied to her software, and her system was pending a restart. This is when I notice the uptime counter for the workstation at 3 days and 14 hours. I call frequent flyer and ask her if she is still having the issue, to which she sarcastically replies that she is. Since she has been difficult and known to exaggerate in the past, bordering on insubordination, I decide to call her manager and ask him to be a fly on the wall during my conversation with her. He agrees, and even suggests that HR be present. Within the span of 10 minutes, I had her manager and the VP of HR in my office, explaining to me that this is not the first report of unprofessional attitude coming from her. To make matters worse, I find out that she had just reported me to HR half an hour ago for being unprofessional. Keeping my composure, I started the call. Immediately, she gets irritated and asks if I have a solution for her issue. She uses some language that would never be acceptable in a professional workspace, Knowing that she has just crossed the line, I request she refrain from using inappropriate language during the remainder of our call. Needless to say, she not only does not stop using inappropriate language, she actually increases using it. I am asked to mute the phone by HR. I explain to her that I need a few minutes to make a change on the back end of her system, which draws further toxic comments from her. I mute the phone and HR informs me that they will need a statement from me about the incident. I want to resolve the issue and get her off the phone so I don't have to deal with this anymore. I return to the call and inform her that her workstation will need a restart to apply the changes. Well, needless to say, but her PDF issues do not exist after the reboot. And for one final nail in her coffin, she closes the call with a comment of how useless our entire company is when it comes to resolving her issues. Within the hour, her manager, HR, and I, as the third manager in the room required by our termination policy, were sitting in the conference room where her employment was terminated. She never said one word after she was informed that the company no longer needed her services, and the details and reasoning for her termination. All I could think of during the exit interview was, this could all have been avoided if she would just have rebooted her workstation when I asked her to. 5. So I work in the medical IT industry for a fairly sized hospital. For the most part, I actually really like my job, except for the handful of troublemaker users that pop up time to time. But today I had a problem that came in that was particularly juicy. Edgar is a generally nice person to talk to, and a fairly smart person at that. The only problem is Edgar thinks their knowledge professionally extends into fields they don't know much about. For example, they will argue with me about how certain things like sending patient info via scanned documents through software is literal faxing. So I get a ticket from Edgar stating that they want their screen to not time out as quick as it currently does and have the fix applied to all of the PCs in their department. Well, even though I could make some snips and changes in the registry to make this happen, it would get wiped out by the group policy in place within at least 24 hours, and on top of that, not only is the amount of time requested that the timeout occur is well beyond those that could be susceptible to creating a security risk. It also can and could potentially violate HIPAA. Now, as a little preface to this issue, I would like to add that I have been asked to do this before for several people, and I've explained this without issue. Edgar, on the other hand, is different, because I simply mentioned the fact that it could be done via registry edits. They were insistent that it needed to be done, despite the fact it violates security protocol and violates the HIPAA agreement. I tell Edgar that I'm simply not comfortable with performing this fix for his issue, as the repercussions for doing so can result in termination for myself. Edgar doesn't care. Edgar wants the timeout to be longer because it takes too long to log in and is affecting patient care. Now, Edgar doesn't work in the OR or the emergency room. I have no justification for the support group that sets group policy in place to make this a reality for them. Edgar still insists. I explain to them, I am not comfortable with doing this, and I have been asked to do this before and have declined. It is a security and HIPAA violation. Edgar states that I am not professionally trained to make that assumption. This could be true, as I am not a medical professional, but I am a certified network technician. I then have to explain why this creates such a massive security risk to Edgar. I spend over an hour explaining this information to them. Edgar still cannot get over the fact that I even remotely mentioned that it's a possibility that it could be done via registry edits, but again would be wiped out by a group policy within 24 hours if done, which I regret letting slip out of my mouth. There is basically no point for me to do this if it could be done. Edgar does not care. They want me to increase the timeout of their screen as if it was their last wish. Now, like I said earlier, I am not a medical professional, but I do know that patients can be frustrating to deal with, and sometimes there is a sense of urgency when collecting patient information. I am a certified network technician and proceed to pull out my network and security and CompTIA certificates out of my wallet and slide them across the table to show them proof of qualifications. Sadly, I've had to do this a number of times with different users. I explain to them what the certificates mean, and that if they do not feel I am qualified to perform the task they have asked, I will gladly reassign the ticket to someone they do feel is qualified. Edgar immediately backpedals and says they're sorry, let's start over. At this point the damage had already been done. I'm done talking by now and begin to pack up my equipment into my bag and repeat, If you do not feel I'm qualified to troubleshoot this issue, I will gladly have your ticket reassigned to someone that you feel is." Edgar then exclaims, "Why can't you increase the timeout?" I then reply with, "Because I said so." I do not normally treat customers this way, but I was at my wit's end with trying to explain to this person why I cannot increase the timeout of their computer, much less to the other PCs in the rest of the department. Needless to say, and to wrap up the story, I submitted a complaint to Edgar's manager, stating that if they were to treat me this way and call me unprofessional, unqualified, that I would not be willing to assist them with further IT issues. I don't expect respect from my customers, but I do expect common decency. I don't tell them that they are not qualified for their position and expect the same in return. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Terrific Tales of Technology, Episode 18. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe, and a comment would also be appreciated if you're so inclined. Alright, let's see. Saturday. So there's been no spinning plates for a couple of weeks. Just can't get the stories. I'm trying, and we'll have one hopefully next Saturday. Alright, that's that. Now, as for streams tonight, let's play it by ear. I am feeling a bit better than I was a week ago. Quite a bit better than I was a week ago. Still feeling a bit iffy. We'll see how things work out. And before we wrap things up, I have a couple of birthday shoutouts to do. I'll say no ages, partly because I've forgotten. And the first one goes to Darth I Know, in various forms, who's actually one of my moderators, both here on YouTube and over on the Hellfreezer Discord. Hope you have a lovely birthday today, and that everyone spoils you for a change instead of you running around and taking care of everyone else. And the second goes to Melissa Marie. And Melissa, I hope you're able to find a day to relax. It always seems that you're dealing with grumpy people at your job, who don't know when just to accept no for an answer. Well, regardless, I hope you're both able to chill and relax at home with your loved ones, and you have a very lovely time. And of course, as is traditional, we're going to have a bit of a sing-song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear I Know. Dear Melissa, happy birthday to you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.